Thank you, Chun. I've been advertising you as being part of the Economy of Francesco, which you are, but you may want to give a slightly more ample explanation of who you are as part of your as the beginning of your presentation. So thank you very much for making the time and preparing this presentation. We were part of trying to get the first Economy of Francesco meeting going, and it was a little bit ambushed by COVID because the original meeting was supposed to happen on the 25th of March 2020. And I think about a month before, we all realized that that couldn't happen. So we had just had two people coming in. I'm just going to ask if you'd like to present yourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah?
My name is.
No, we can't. Well, we can't see you on the screen anymore. But Midana,
Yes.
present yourself.
Okay, my name is Midana Pinheiro. Usually I came here from 2023. I am students.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Irina. I'm from Ukraine. I'm student 2024, and I want to improve my English speaking. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining as well. Can I just check? Can you all see what's kind of on the screen here, or is it not coming up?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. That's a really, really good start. So, as Nishan's saying, I'll just do a little bit of introduction about who I am. So, my name is Chun Lam. Oh, slow down a bit.
We'll slow it.
So, my name's Chun Lam. In my paid day job, I work for the West Midlands Combined Authority. So, we are one of the strategic authorities that's been set up all over England. Which is effectively they are local government bodies that's been set up by the councils. So in Manchester, you have got the equivalent to us, which is the Greater Manchester Combined Authority that's led by a mayor of Greater Manchester. In your case, it's Andy Burnham. In my case, I've got a mayor of the West Midlands, which is Richard Parker. I work for local government as a local government officer, which means I'm not in a political position. So the politicians, whatever party they belong to, they are party political. My role as a local government officer is to provide the best advice and recommendations that I possibly can to our elected officials. In my paid employment, my job as heading up a research, intelligence, and inclusive growth team very much talks about how we build a West Midlands that ensures that nobody is left behind, making sure, if I was to use the mayor's wording, growth is for everyone. So economic growth needs to benefit everyone. I'd say that the economy of Francesco arguably takes it the next step further, which is to make the case what exactly is about growth that we're looking for. It's not growth for economic growth's sake. It's very much looking at growth in the context of actually, do you even want growth in that sense? Personal growth, maybe a very different way of growth, would be a better way of looking at it. And if we look at a lot of things within Catholic social teaching, there's a recognition that every person and every living being has its intrinsic human dignity that we need to really respect in a way that I don't think secular concepts around growth is really taken into account. So within Economy Francesco, I lead a village that's called Policies for Happiness, which is one of 12 thematic villages within the Economy Francesco. And Father Dushan, you mentioned about your work right at the beginning of process, encouraging people. Sadly, I wasn't at that event, but I heard so many really positive things about that event as bringing a community together, in that case in London. And I was at that stage applying to be one of the people to be in Economy Francesco in March 2020 with my tickets all booked and everything, only for it to be moved to an online process. So in this talk, I will go through a bit of how we have developed the Economy of Francesco since, and also what's happening this November, which will be the second ever in-person gathering of Economy of Francesco since it's started by really a letter from the previous Pope Francis to a lot of young economists and change makers, entrepreneurs, and people interested in building a different type of economy that is in a lot of wording here, economy of life, moving from economy that kills to the economy of life. So the starting point, if I was to figure out how I can move to the next slide on here, hopefully the next slide has turned up on your screen, shout if it hasn't, is in March 2015. So I gather there's some first years students here amongst yourselves, so this would be such a long time ago to some of you really. But in March 2015, Pope Francis issued this encyclical called Laudato Si, which is Latin for praise be to you. And it's an encyclical letter about the care of our common home. The title itself, Praise Be to You, echoes St. Francis of Assisi's tribute to the beauty of creation, where the whole letter opens with a bit of a warning, really. Humanity has wounded Sister Mother Earth by our irresponsible use and abuse of the goods that God has endowed the earth. And we as humanity have begun to see ourselves as the earth's lords and masters, entitled to plunder her at our will. And then the whole encyclical tries to make a bit of a case, calling for a systemic transformation through what the church would call integral ecology, and also an inward, personal, ecological conversion to become Catholics, become Christians that really truly care for our common home. And it's not and Pope Francis was not going at something that's completely different from what previous popes have done. It really reflects decades and decades of Catholic social teaching. So you had Saint Pope John the 23rd talk about the ecological crisis, all the way to Pope Benedict the 16th, really warning of ecological and moral crisis as a result of the way that humans relate to creation, really, asking for different type of relationships. I can go into a lot of detail from challenges to nuclear weapons from some of the popes in the 20th century, to recognizing that through Pope Francis, and you can see even with Pope Leo's recent blessing of a block of ice, really understanding that all of these things are connected to one another, really. So I want you to take a bit of a moment to consider, based on some of these things, 6 things over here, what's happening in our common home, gospel creation, some of the things about integral ecology. What are some of the things that Pope Francis says that might resonate most of your experience of our common home of creation? And to do that, I'm going to try and share a different window with the question. And what would be helpful would be to have your mobile phones of some sort, because then you can then answer the questions on the screen over there, if this works. If not, then please just shout out answers. So to join this one, you go to the top of you look at the top of the screen where it tells you to go to somewhere I think called menti.com, and then you can type in the code, which is 8 digits long. So that's 25446203. So while you do that, I'll go talk through what some of the 6 chapters of Laudato Si goes into, really. So that first chapter sets out the crisis facing our planet, things like pollution, things like climate change, scarcity of water, loss of the biodiversity, and deepening global inequality as well. And then on to chapter 2, Pope Francis goes to some of the spiritual foundations about caring for a natural world. So God's creation is not just only presented as a bit of a gift to humanity, but it's also a shared inheritance that it's on us to be able to cultivate and protect it responsibility. And then chapter 3, the Pope goes into some of the human roots of this ecological crisis that happens. So the letter critiques things that lead the cultural forces and the ideological forces that leads to environmental degradation.
Chun, could you give the code again? Because it's not, the one I typed in isn't working.
So 25446203 isn't working, is that?
544.
But where do we type it in?
So you go to menti.com.
Can you see it on the screen, by the way? The code should come out on the top of the page.
It's very small.
Okay.
254, yeah, 25446203. And it's not doing anything.
I got it to work.
Oh, you got it to work. Well done. Somebody's got it to work. I haven't managed to get it to work.
So what should happen is that you should end up with a page that looks a bit like this. So it should simply say, take a moment. What part of Pope Francis's message resonates most with your own experience of coming home? And if it really isn't working, very happy for you to shout out answers or have a bit of discussion in person as well. So it's not just me talking at you all evening.
I don't have a phone, so I'd like to chime in, if I may. Can you hear me, Sijin?
I can hear you indeed, yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, before I came to faith, I was very focused on accumulation of wealth. And when you're focused on that, you kind of, you rationalize everything to accumulate wealth, and you forget about society and the environment, because all these things that you feel that you really, it's going to be destroyed anyway, so you might as well take as much as you can get. And I feel like, many people who live like that. And, I think ultimately economics and I read books, criticisms of mainstream economics. Like there's a book by a guy called John Perkins, and he basically criticizes the economy of death. But I think where he stops short is he doesn't talk of Christ. And I think all the environmental movement and economics generally just doesn't work without Christ, because people are free. And we all need someone to guide us. So that's kind of my take on it.
Thank you so much for sharing. Indeed, there's something about how mainstream economics haven't been able to take some of these challenges into consideration. That's where some of Economy of Francesco looks to change that. And Laudato Si certainly sets out some of the challenges, really. And I can see on the comments here, come in with all humanity, but also let not be species elitist. All species have equal rights to creation. Indeed, absolutely. And you're right. I am going to move on to the next slide for now, but if there's other thoughts, please do continue to add them, and I'll try and move back to if more can join it with code 25446203. There's a number of other questions that we can look at afterwards as well. Meanwhile, I'll figure out how to go back to the other screen share. So I'll finish off on Laudato Si. So chapter 3 goes into, I'm going forward. Chapter 3 goes to the human roots of it. Chapter 4 is where it gets really interesting, because the Pope sets out the concept of integral ecology. which it's a bit like the comment about the importance of thinking about other species as well. So affirms that humans are part of a larger web of life, and we need to think about comprehensive solutions which consider the interactions between natural systems and the social systems. So it merges and fuses not just some of the things that you might get in the secular literature about redesigning economic system, but consider things that integrate some ethical and spiritual dimensions as well. And then chapter 5 says some ideas and actions to doing it. So how do you apply integral ecology into public life? For instance, through international cooperation to protect the environment. And then chapter 6 turns that from that outwards involvement into that inner ecological conversion about how this is the way that we can deepen our communion with God as well, with others, and with the natural world. And then this slide simply says, okay, there are certain things in here which is in the kind of the secular world as well. So it's not just the Pope saying a lot of this. There's a lot of views in the secular world that talks about this. So in fact, this particular set of slides is what I can use within the West Midlands Combined Authority to say about some of the challenges about it. So we look at most mainstream economics views. It continues to be about the extent to which GDP or gross domestic product has grown, except there are certain interesting challenges to that. So staying healthy, for instance, is economically invisible and doesn't actually contribute to GDP in the way that paying for drug treatments or health systems or drugs and like would actually contribute more to GDP and so forth. And there's certain things, certain types of labor are not counted in GDP figures. So you can think about a lot of the care that people may provide to children, to older people. I have to say, often with a gender dimension as well, in that it's not necessarily counted in GDP statistics as well. And therefore, we need to reconsider and reimagine what progress should look like, and not as a series of endless consumption, but how that might be within ecological boundaries. So I've just seen another comment on the mentee about discovered that recognizing the earth as a common home encourages us to recognize those bonds of friendships between us and focus on sharing rather than competition as well. So moving on to the Economy of Francesco, this was 1st of May 2019 when the Pope wrote a letter to turn the initiative so the ideas in Laudato Si into initiative. And the Economy of Francesco sought to bring together young people to imagine, and not just imagine, but really build what a different type of economy could look like. One that's actually inclusive. So the comment here about the bonds of friendship is actually absolutely spot on. Not as exclusive, humane and not dehumanizing, and also one that really cares for environment and doesn't despoil it. And then entering a bit of a covenant to change the economy. And the wording was to give a soul to the economy of tomorrow. And then he used the example of St. Francis of Assisi, who was called in the little church. If you've ever been to Assisi, there's a church inside a church, if you like, where St. Francis was told, "Go, Francis, repair my house, which, as you see, is falling into ruin." Calling us to repair that house, our common home. And this is something that concerns all of us. And this is how we can transform and change our society in a way that's really builds the economy of life and is in line with what is said in the gospel. So in March 2020, by March 2020, I should say, there's been 3,000 young people from 120 countries across 5 continents that signed up. And obviously then the pandemic happened. So what happened instead was that a global process began. So the pandemic didn't stop it. In fact, you could argue it works quite nicely because instead of a single event in March where people brought together lots of fantastic ideas and all go back to own places and nothing ever happens, what happened was because it's then delayed, you've got a huge amount of energy, a huge amount of people who are interested in doing something. And so a lot of the meetings happen exactly like this on Zoom, on a global community to be able to develop some of those ideas. And what by November 2020, an online event was held, bringing together speakers from around the world, from Indian environmental activist Vandana Shiva to the Bangladeshi social entrepreneur Muhammad Yunus and UCL's Professor Mariana Mazzucato and Kate Rayworth from Oxford and Jeffrey Sachs from the US to comment and critique on some ideas built on the village. So I was responsible at that stage for presenting one about how you could have a children's flourishing index, and then I was in a bit of a discussion with Jeffrey Sachs about who then offered some challenge and critique to my ideas on it, and then. In a UK, particularly London context, we held a online hub instead, which is called the London United Kingdom Hub, with three things. And to make it with a slightly British twist, our idea was to host a British pub quiz. And the thing was that is building on the whole global community. The idea is that it was a global 24-hour event. It was a marathon. So we had 1 hour slots to do a British pub quiz and a number of other things as well. And then we then passed the torch on to the next place to do another event so that the whole world was covered. And that's effectively what happened in 2020. And then 2021, another online event happened. This was at St Mary's Moorfields in London. And we had we were on the live stream with the global event that took place online and brought together around 20 young people in London and alongside 40 different hubs around the world as well. And then in 2022, this was in person to identify some ideas. Basically, what happens is that there's some events where the entire community was involved, and then there's a day when we split into the 12 thematic villages in order to develop some of our ideas into more workable proposals. And the idea that was that by the end of this particular session in Assisi, we'll come up with a final statement and a common commitment about how we can transform our economy. So the statement from my particular village, which is Policies for Happiness, stated this: we as people, families, communities, and citizens of the world believe we cannot make ourselves happy without making others happy as well. And we can only achieve this by adopting new metrics for the common good and by encouraging civil institutions to provide the time and space necessary to build meaningful relations, which I feel is so strongly reflected in the comment that someone here added about those bonds of friendships, really. So unless you've got that time and space to build meaningful relations, it's a bit difficult. And unless we can adopt new metrics rather than looking at GDP as a be-all and end-all, it's a bit difficult. And every village came out with a contribution to say, this is what our common commitment should look like. You can see that the village is also interesting, kind of puts its two interesting concepts. So policy is not usually associated with happiness. How do you associate management in gift and so forth? But a lot of that is really backed by some of the literature of the academics and other people that contributed to the sessions in 2020 and 2021, as well as the ideas being developed by the young people themselves as well. And then so 2022, major event happened in person. What's happened since? And then in the Economy of Francesco, it looks a bit like this, really. So there has been things ranging from summer schools to Economy of Francesco Academy. Some of the academies were held online with speakers from around the world sharing lots and lots of ideas about what it takes to build a different type of economy. So there's things ranging from learning from plants. So how on earth can you learn from plants about building an economy? And there's certain things about uh, 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 you could imagine a natural cycle where the leaves of the plants when they get discarded in autumn when leaves fall and everything, they then form the nutrients for well, they form shelter for a lot of insects at the moment, but you could imagine when they decompose, they form new nutrients for others and so forth. And then that's a very different way of working that natural cycle from our living world where so much is being discarded. And you can see that reflected in concepts like circular economy as well, and making a big difference. There are very practical things like farms of Francesco, which is ideas that you build by the agriculture and justice village about building different type of farms and that actually uh, different farms rather around that's aligned to Economy of Francesco uh, uh, thinking really. And then the Economy of Francesco hubs, of which well, there was the one in London. We have really struggled to keep a hub going in the United Kingdom, although my intention is to do events like this with hopes that some people may be inspired to resume and build some type of hub back in the UK to yourselves and to contribute to some thinking on the ground at the local level. And then some call to actions that the national committee's also done, ranging from a reading marathon to during the Taliban retakeover of Afghanistan, during a campaign that Afghan women exist. And there are campaigns around Gaza at the moment, as you could imagine. That's also being looking in terms of those global initiatives that's happening now as well. And these are meant to be call to actions that invite people to economy of peace and justice. So now you can say that Economy of Francisco these days is a movement. It's also a global movement. It's kind of transformed from being a moment, if you like, into a entire movement. And there's a foundation that's been set up that's focused on research, what more ethical enterprise should look like, and leadership as well. And then the 12 villages and the global hubs are meant to foster some dialogue and action as well. So you've got the villages continue to exist, there's a board, there's the global hubs, and there's lots of activities as well that encourages participation from people from everywhere as well. So with Pope Leo the 14, you might wonder what this means in terms of the Economy of Francesco. And what's happened since is that during the Jubilee of Youth this summer, the Pope asked the young people gathered to seek justice to build a more humane world, serve the poor, and that you bear witness to the good we long to receive from one another. So there is that inspiration towards the type of behavior and the type of economy that we want to, that Pope Francis and previous popes and throughout Catholic social teaching has tried to encourage, really. So then that brings us to 2025, where on the 28th to the 30th of November in this Jubilee year, there will be a Restarting the Economy event at Castel Gandolfo, which is, I believe, one of the Pope's residences. And it's particularly, it is at the conference center that's located near the railway station there. And the intention of this particular event is to rethink what should the economy look like through the lens of the biblical jubilee. So if you think about the history of jubilees, the idea is that this is a time for liberation, it's a time of restoration, and it's a time of rest. So it reminds us that the earth must be allowed to breathe, that people should be free from exploitation and debt, and that we need to be moving away from the same comment there about endless accumulation and about consumption into economy that really focuses and encourages justice, care, and renewal as well. So the idea is that this global event, we want to be bringing together young economists, entrepreneurs, and change makers to engage in a new dialogue, to build some proposals and share some visions and commitments to actions. So I've been in probably far too many Zoom calls at Central European time with the Economy of Francesco Foundation because I'm trying to put together a workshop which tries to turn some of the policies for happiness, ideas and concepts into a workshop. I'd love to one day run that workshop in Manchester because that might bring it alive as well. But at the moment, trying to prepare what that should look like. And my idea at the moment is looking at how we can convert some of different stakeholder groups and some of the academic literature underpinning the policies for happiness into a bit of a board game where people, it's a kind of a board game, but a kind of a workshop type thing where people can look at these are some resources that really, things like time and space, things like actually what it means to be building meaningful connections and how certain stakeholders may have more of those and less of those. So you can imagine some creatives with some kind of creative and cultural voices may be really strong in certain resources. And by being able to trade those resources, they would fare better. So working through a workshop at the moment and having a conversation with Caritas Europe next week to shape and design what exactly that should look like. So back over to you with a second question. I'd be really interested in hearing from you as to if there's economy of the gospel or economy of life right in your community in Manchester. What could that look like? And if you're very, very new to Manchester, you might want to think about your own community and what that looks like in your own space as well. And again, we can have a discussion, or alternatively, you should see that the question on your phone should have changed to a new question instead. Meanwhile, how am I doing for time, by the way? How long have you got? And
I think we go till about 7.
okay, yeah, good. Thank you. The rest of it's very much is a series of discussion points, really. So we can either consider this first, or we can consider 3 things in one go.
If you're not on the phone, you might want to say something out loud because I think the microphone will pick you up. So
Charitability. Thank you.
there's a 200-word character.
25, yeah,
Oh,
25 characters.
apparently there's a 25 character limit.
One word.
Or just one word.
Yeah, at the moment it's only one word. So if the next question I think is a slightly longer one actually, because so I'll let you put comments in here, but I'm going to quickly go back to the other screen and so you can see what the 3 questions look like as well. So I've got a question on what might the economy of gospel look like here in Manchester, and we've got lots and lots of comments coming up on the screen at the moment. And then the second question I was wondering that I thought could be interesting would be, as Catholics, as Christians, or as citizens really, what practical steps can we take to build a more just and inclusive economy? So what does it really mean if we are to give a soul to the to a new economy in our daily lives, in our workplaces, right in the universities that you're studying or working or researching in, and in the parish communities that you are in, really? And a third question about what would a flourishing economy of Francesco hub in the UK look like? So, in other countries, what you've got is young people gathering together with ideas ranging from running very practical things about, I mean, charitability, for instance. You could turn that into some ideas about how you could be charitable, how you could build a hub within Manchester that's going to do some practical actions. Or you might think actually, as students, as researchers, as academics, as people linked to university community, what that could look like in your community as well. And I was going to end with sharing the link to the Economy of Francesco website, which is a top link that you've got there. And then the second link here is my very limited attempt at the moment saying, well, I don't have the time and resources to run a full Economy of Francesco hub, but let's open up a space to be able to share the good stuff that's happening across the four UK nations, really. Meanwhile, I'll go back to the slide where some of you are putting in some uh, words and suggestions about what you think economy of the gospel could look like in your communities. So I think it's fair enough to say no idea. It's not an easy question of the concept. So absolutely no idea is a perfectly valid response. Peaceful, hope for youth, reconciliation, charitability, welfare, non-competitive, belonging, and organization, and discovering. The second question here is, what are some practical steps that you feel like you can take to build a more just and inclusive economy? And while you think about it, I'm going to ask you to turf a number of ideas in there as well. But if you've got I'm sure you've got far better ideas, so please put them in. So using local businesses, building on relationships, we've got things about uncovering existing community initiatives and supporting those rather than commercial enterprises focused on profits, creating guide to these for local people, promoting social welfare programs, encouraging taxation policies to uplift brothers and sisters in Christ suffering from poverty, enabled by the economy that kills, indeed. Is there something that we can do on a global context? And I'm saying this on the fact that we last Friday would be CAFD, the Catholic Agency for Overseas Development's Harvest Family Fast Day, where people can donate and help. In the story that CAFD shared last Friday, Ware, Ethiopian mother of 5, and the fact that she suffered drought and so forth, and through donations to CAFD, you can make a big difference on a global scale as well. So there are local things you can do. There are things you can do right in your community. Also into links to the different parts of the world that many of you are from as well, and also contributing on a global scale as well. But thanks for the ideas that have been shared so far. If you do want to share more, please do. And the third one I've got here is what does it look like, or could we create a flourishing Economy of Francesco hub in the UK? While you answer that, I'm going to try and see if I can open the hub on the existing website on the same window as well. So this is what I've ended up starting with to rebuild a hub, where it starts back in July. In fact, I was 3 posts in July. I shared the information about what we did in 2020 with events, including the marathon I spoke of. And then in 2021, this was a gathering in London, and the program that we had, including our food slide deck, and also the workshop that we had from Dr. Roberto Pasqualino as well on systems thinking as well. So there's quite in-depth input into the hub as well. And then in 2022, the in-person event, an opportunity to share that as well. I then made contact with Join the Dots Together, or actually I should say it's Join the Dots Together, made contact through the Economy of Francesco Foundation to talk about what they're doing in Northern Ireland, and that was really impressive. What Juanito's pictured over there has done about bringing communities together has been very impressive, and I want to talk about that. And then I then spoke to the Wellbeing Economy Alliance, which is a UK-based organization. In fact, they featured Economy of Francesco in one of their case studies, and we wanted to feature them back. And they are actually now setting up a We All England hub. So that's a new hub that's officially launched in early 2026, and we're talking to them about what that could look like. Imagine if we were to do more in the UK, we can start saying what that looks like in the UK. So thanks for the first idea. We can educate ourselves about the supply chain to empathize more with those who produce and transport goods, and therefore recognize our interconnectedness. There's lots and lots about this one. There's things about how you can have local circular economies where you create lots of things within your localities to kind of create and retain community wealth through community wealth building, but also when we then recognize that when we buy things from elsewhere, there's a lot of people who are involved in the supply chains, and they may or may not be remunerated in a fair way as well. Further organization within across diocese to support national movements, provide alternative social and environmental aid that isn't provided in the current economy. That's potentially something that you can start at a parish level as well. Inclusive encounters with nature, so bring people together. Absolutely. I mean, if you think about the Laudato Si, talking about the ecological inner conversion as well. This is absolutely critical, because if people don't have those encounters with nature, they don't really see the reason why we should protect and retain and improve biodiversity. But when people have those inclusive encounters, then you're much more likely to want to protect our common home creation, really. So 3 absolutely brilliant concepts and ideas that you're sharing here.
Cedric. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? Am I pronounced Cedric?
Yes. Hi.
Yes, it's Niels again. So you asked about what things we need to learn about. I'd say I've worked in financial regulation, I've worked in governance, I work in academia now. And I'd say one of the things I think that I would recommend is learn about how people make decisions and why. Um, because we need to get the incentive structures right. It's not just about financial incentives. And there's a deep body of literature around that. All the marketers and advertisers know, and they generally use that knowledge for, shall we say, less than honorable ends. So it's just a matter of learning from the enemy and applying those tools in an ethical way that is consistent with the gospel.
I think you make such an important point. The marketers, advertisers, they know exactly how to encourage us to do as they say, and then if you work in financial regulation, you've got opportunity to get the incentive structures right, and also think how people, is it exactly you said, how people make those decisions as well, and there is a role for government in how we do that, but there's also perhaps a personal, perhaps even spiritual role about how we use each of our positions to do that. But I get that there's a systemic issue about it that's far beyond personal responsibility. There's systems about the way that the world works, which means that certain things like that become uh, far more powerful than individual actions as well. But wouldn't discount either.
Johannes, Dominic, Yuan, is there anything you'd like to comment or add?
Oh, I just realized that I'm on a very big screen as well.
Suppose if we're doing questions, specifically, because from what I've gathered from the talk, it's more of a promoting a philosophy. What kind of legislation could we promote um, to get this going on a larger scale? Because I think it's all very well trusting people to then have specifically more of a Christian or Franciscan philosophy when practicing or dealing with money in a social sense. Yeah, what could we do to promote on a larger scale that the government might even support?
Thank you. So, the I'd say that firstly, I'm going to say I would not discount the importance of the culture aspects. You can put in all sorts of legislation in place, but people will find ways and loopholes around it if we don't get the culture right. And yes, this one very much stems from a lot of the Christian thinking, but in Economy of Francesco, we had people of all faiths and none at the event in the CC because recognizing it's really important that this is not seen as uh, only one faith doing it, if you like. Obviously, all of what has been done links right back into the gospel, but it's done with people of all faiths. And the Join the Dots movement that I mentioned in Northern Ireland also brings in people of different faiths as well. Having said that, you're absolutely right that there is a role for governments to play a much stronger role in it. We can see academics making the case. So I would suggest reading things like Kate Rayworth's Donut Economics, where she turns the concepts that traditional economics have on its heads, really. So I did economics in my first degree. That's over in the southwest in Bath. And the first thing that we did was a supply and demand diagram. So you think that idea being that it's your demand rises, you'd expect the supply to fall, and then as a result, prices would be more expensive and so forth. Being that the argument being that there's an equilibrium where price and matches exactly where supply and demand would be completely matched. And that's how you kind of start off with economy. In a lot of the donut economics work, it places the economy as an embedded economy within society and itself within the planetary's support systems. In other words, you cannot have an economy without thinking about society and within economy, which aligns very nicely and strongly with a lot of the integral ecology concepts that the Pope Francis has talked about. As for specific, that's not easy to immediately turn to legislation because academics will play a role in saying this is what should happen. But now, does that really happen? I do note that there's two things that's happened recently. You had the Lancet last month publish a whole review on beyond GDP. So the idea that can we convince or encourage the United Nations to move much stronger beyond GDP, and that's built on a lot of previous work. So the UN obviously has a Human Development Index to try and figure out and understand where countries are in terms of human development. But by and large, economists still focus on GDP growth as the goal in and of itself. And then you can also look at again on the Lancet. Last week they published Eat Lancet, which talks about what a planetary health diet or PhD, as they call it, should look like. And that talks about how our diets needs to change in order to be remaining within those planetary boundaries. So there's a lot of things that the best thinkers and ideas and the experts in that field, if you like, are recommending to governments. But perhaps it's like the comment someone said a bit earlier about incentives, really. How do we get it right so that governments would finally be adopting this way of working?
Thank you. Does the project aim to report on any findings, and have there been any reports so far?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Really sorry.
Does the project, the Economy of Francesco, aim to report on any findings that the project has accomplished? And have there been any reports so far?
I think it's because it's a lot looser in its setup than a single project with a structure. It's more difficult to report on what's happened in that way. So a lot of the time it's been very much autonomous groups doing things aligned to the Economy of Francesco principles. So this is again where the culture becomes so important. How do you get it right so that people start coming up with incentives? So there's nothing stopping you, all of you here, becoming Economy of Francesco and developing a project in line with Economy of Francesco principles, and then going to the foundation to say, well, can we make this an official Economy of Francesco project? So that's how things like Farms of Francesco started. That's how Learning from Plants started. That's how a lot of the things emerged.
No feedback. No feedback. But there's no data. So there's no feedback, there's no data, there's just independent projects that are aligned to this foundation.
So the foundation itself is very new. So that was set up towards the end of last year when they became a foundation. Before that, it was very much it's more of a movement, really. So it's kind of like it's not an organization where it would then publish, okay, over the last year we achieved X, Y, Z, because they're all independently funded bits of it's if you like, it's more of a network of people being brought together. foundation being set up last year to put more of a structure behind it.
But you don't know if it's working or not.
We do. So it depends on what is working or not. So some of the individual projects, for instance, we can look at what type of impact that's creating. So Farms of Francesco, for instance, they'll be looking at the extent to which that might encourage the land and soil to be regenerated in a more successful way than not. The sort of things through Join the Dot, for instance, is linked to Queen's University in Belfast, and they'll be evaluating the extent to which that particular program is working. If you were to set up something in Manchester aligned to the principles of Economy of Francesco, you'll be able to figure out how you might want to do it. But the central foundation itself would not have the resources to do that.
It's a sort of network of ideas more than specific projects that are being organized centrally, and then you go away and do this in this place. It's a ground up.
Yes, indeed, yes.
Can I ask a question? Do you have a literature, like any publications about, how the values of your foundation link back to Catholic teaching and the gospel?
I would say that's a really good question for the foundation itself. Unfortunately, I don't work for the foundation, so I won't be able to share that information. It would be a good question to raise to the Economy of Francesco Foundation itself. What I can share is that I'm more familiar with the literature underpinning policies for happiness, because that's the one village that I'm coordinating. So I can share my knowledge of that if that'd be useful. I can follow up in a email with some resources on that.
Great, thank you.
And there would be some things on the Economy of Francesco website that would give links to different areas that are being explored.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely. The Economy of Francesco website is perhaps the best starting point for that evidence that they've got for how their work would align back to the Scripturo and also foundations of it, and also Laudato Si as well.
Any last questions or comments that you'd like to put to see Chun?
While you look at that, I'm going to very briefly show that this is the Economy of Francesco website, where you can see the main event. And if anyone's interested, apparently you can still, if anyone's interested, apparently you can still join. And then there's details about the final statement that I mentioned. So this is a full final statement commitment, including the ones from Policy for Happiness and what all the other villages have done. And then the contact for the foundation, you'll find that's being set up quite recently. Oh, it's 2023 actually. That's when it's happened, and it was then set up in 2024, and they've got a plan for what they want to be doing over the next year. So that's probably the information that you need to understand how they've ended up with this, and then they list who the people running this are, and the representation from different parts of the world. And I'm not part of that. I'm not part of foundation. I work for a UK combined authority, not here. And the post and how they got to the foundation as well. And apparently they're publishing a lot more later, but apparently soon. That's June, but it might take a while.
Thank you, Si Chun. Thank you for throwing out many interesting ideas, and I think it's left us with lots of questions to sort of to explore and to think about, and hopefully we might at some point be able to think about something in Manchester. So thank you very much for taking the time to prepare this and to present to us.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Goodbye for now.
Bye.